Hey, welcome to Nobody Told Me with Mike and Blaine, and we are live after a struggle. Hey, we're trying this live thing, right? We're trying this live thing. It's the first time, though, that we've done it to our own Facebook page. So if you have not liked our Facebook page, go to Nobody Told Me with Mike and Blaine, and we are live right there. And this is where we're going to be doing this from now on, is on Nobody Told Me with MikeandBlaine.com live on Thursdays, mostly Thursdays. 4 p.m. Central. Now, what is it? 3
p.m. Mountain for me. Yeah. And
I
don't know what time it is in Arizona.
Anybody listening, that Blaine just told us he starts drinking beer at 3 p.m. Mountain
on Thursdays.
On Thursday. That's kind of what he told us. He gave that secret up. So
unless I've gone out for lunch.
Yeah. So Blaine, I'm telling you, today I have been doing nothing but talking on this computer all day long. I did 6 hours of a webinar today. Six.
Oh man. Okay. Well, you can drink and I'll carry I'll do some talking. I've got a little catch up to do then.
But it was all cash flow related. And guess what? Dry Run actually got a plug, and I actually got to talk about Dry Run during today.
Oh, well, thank you, man. I appreciate that. It's
yeah, right.
Always loving
invoices in the mail.
Yeah. I'm going to buy you a beer on our website where everyone else can go and buy us beer at mikeandblaine.com. So you can be the fifth beer, I think, is where we'd be at right now. So we have to, otherwise we have to buy our own.
All right. So today's episode, right, is number 53, right? We are past that like 1 year mark at 52. We're at 53 now. And it's one of your favorite quotes. I've heard you say it, but when the actual quote from like Biz Stone is a little long, so I got to read it, right? I mean, I got to read it, but you have a more succinct way of saying it. So let me read it first, and then you paraphrase it the way you do, right? So the quote is this: timing, perseverance, and 10 years of trying will eventually make you look like an overnight success.
Yeah. And I talk quite often about it, in the startup community. I've heard it quite often of people just talk about the 10-year overnight success. And I guess I didn't know it came from that quote, but it's something that feels like, yeah, that feels about right. You look at this tech company, they'll pop up, we'll get a SaaS subscription or something. Go, man, these guys are awesome. They're doing something really cool. And then you look and it's like, holy cow, these guys started in, 1999, not quite that far back, but that 10-year overnight success. Yeah. 2012, they started then. And now they're kicking it. So it's a very cool quote, but it speaks so much to how long and how arduous the startup journey is. Before we dive into that though, we have to figure out, I want to know what you're drinking today.
Hey, I did something weird, right? I only because I saw it and I'm like going, there's only one place I can get this. I can't get it anywhere else but inside this one establishment, right? Now the thing is, you can get it all over the country. It's not like it's a Texas thing. Have you heard of BJ's restaurant?
No.
All right. So BJ's is kind of like a Applebee's or, Chili's or something like that. But probably a step up, a little bit of step up, and they brew their own beer.
Oh, nice. Okay.
But as I was walking out, they actually now have it where you can buy it in a six pack, but right as you walk out, they have like a cooler of their own beer. I'm like, I've never seen this in the store anywhere.
Nice.
So I'm like, okay. So it's a craft brew by BJ's, which is actually kind of a franchise, kind of there's a lot of stores out there. But it's called Hop Storm IPA. And now I normally drink Jeremiah Red, but the reason why I picked this one, and it's a cool can. Look at that. This shit.
Yeah, it is very cool.
I've never had it. Right. So I'm like going, okay, well, if we're going to put it on the show, I'm going to drink something I never had. But I do have their Jeremiah Red. And I'll tell you what, a guy turned me on to there the other day when we went. It was called a Jerry Blast or something like that. It's Jeremiah Red and like a berry cider mixed.
Okay.
And it sounds weird. Sounds gross.
Yeah, sounds weird.
Loved it. Absolutely loved it. But you only drink one. Like, it's like drinking the Starburst or something.
Yeah.
By the way, hey, shout out to BJ's, and Hop Storm.
Nice. I'll keep an eye out for BJ's. I don't know where they are, but worth a try. So today, I just popped over to the liquor store before this because I thought last week I was scrambling around trying to find something. I drank one of my wife's sours, which didn't go over great. And so I popped by the liquor store today. I bought, actually I bought more sours, but I also bought some IPAs. And this is a brewery I know we haven't done before. So it's E9 Brewery from Tacoma, Washington, and it's called Vertigo India Pale Ale. Just kind of a nice, clean can, big giant E9. And it's a New England style IPA, kind of a cloud. It's really quite good.
Yeah. You know, what's funny is I lived in that area for 8 years. I don't know. I've never heard of the brewery. How interesting.
I'm wondering if they're really quite new, just because I'd never heard of them either in all my time. So I'll look it up and I'll look it up when we post this. I'll check it out and see what they're about. Check out their Facebook page and all that. And see what.
You know what's funny is that normally we're really similar. If I have a can, yours looks kind of similar and not plain. We are not that way today.
These are totally different. Well, except they are green though.
I guess they are kind of green,
purple, but they are quite different. But they're both IPAs too today, which is
that's true. That's true. Yeah. So, all right. So the 10-year overnight success, right? That's what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. That's the reality. That's what it feels like. That's what what we know. That's what you and I know. But on occasion, there's that overnight success, like an Uber, like a Facebook. Well, I guess Facebook still took a little while, but like WeWork, like Airbnb, it seemed like those things just got going and took off real fast. The unicorns, as it called.
And well, first of all, it seemed like they did, but I've never looked at the inception dates of any of those. So I think they were quicker than the norm. Probably not 10 years, but I'm not sure how quick they actually moved. But I think one of the things is that those unicorns, the thing is they're globally known. They're unicorns, they're multi-billion-dollar businesses. A lot of them aren't profitable. So it's hard for me to say they're billion-dollar businesses, but they're valued like that. It's like, oh, they haven't made a nickel yet, but anyway, but it takes, it's hard to say, like everyone knows about them. Everybody knows Airbnb, Uber, and that. The problem is that kind of sets kind of a benchmark for everybody else. And I think investors also think that a lot of times. It's like, well, how come you're not Airbnb? Because there's only one. It's like, what are like 5-10 unicorns on the planet kind of right now or whatever. Thousands upon thousands of really terrific businesses that are going to do really well. A lot of them will sell for a lot of money that are profitable. They're not going to be that overnight success.
Yeah. And you're probably right. It probably takes longer than we think. Even if you think of a unicorn as an overnight success, they're probably 3 to 5 years in already, if not longer.
Yeah. I would say easily. And that's when they're super well funded and everything goes kind of perfect, even though perfect is like kind of half awful. Like it never goes perfect. But for them to make that kind of traction that fast, in a way, it sort of goes perfect and it still takes years. And like, I remember back in my agency days, it was always, you always heard it takes 5 years to build a business. And that's a traditional business. It's not a tech business, it's not a business where you're trying to build something and then build a market. It's like you kind of hang your shingle up. And that's what we did, kind of hang the shingle up. And we were profitable basically the day we opened our doors because we had contracts coming in. And I still know that by around the 5-year mark, there was a fundamental difference. That it's like, yeah, you know what? We're a lot more established now. Systems, processes, staff, It was a lot more established. And then you look back and say, yeah, it does. It takes years. And that's a business that we were starting and kind of were into right away. But it took that long to feel like it was established. And for a tech business, 10 years is probably average, you know?
Yeah, more and more, right? I think there is a huge amount of pressure for any business to succeed fast.
Yeah.
That's just never been my reality. Now, I've been profitable fast in a few of them, like hotel staffing, profitable really fast. I mean, I'm talking about in months of inception because everything was built in that way, which means, I got paid a margin on top of everyone's hour, right? So as soon as I covered, fixed cost of working a small, 4-man team of administrators, Once that was covered, it was all profit after
All
that.
profit. Yeah.
Well, and then need fund growth. But the other thing is like the first bar I had, profitable in the first 2 months. And that was all process change, right? It was an old mindset that we just changed to a new mindset. But everything other than that, right? Finograph, Pad by Simplex, even Truly Financial right now, maybe Dry Run. It takes a lot longer to feel like you're making a difference, to feel like you're actually figuring it out.
It does. It takes, and that's the lesson that I've learned from going from, hey, we landed a big contract. Well, let's start hiring people, and they got money coming in and all that, to we got to build this sucker. And then you got to get that product market fit. And then you got to pivot here and pivot there and do this, do that, jump here, roll over, it's a completely different world. And it's amazing how fast, a few years goes by and then a few more years goes by. But that's just the reality. It's the reality of business. It's very, very challenging, right? And most businesses don't make it to 5 years, let alone 10.
Yeah. So I try to, when you feel like you've made it, right? I try to describe it to people. And I'm not talking about made it like, on Facebook. I'm talking about made it where I'm like, I got a pretty good, nice business here. Yeah. It's the difference between push and pull. Right. All right. So first of all, the 4 stages of a life cycle of a company, right? You got, startup, then there's growth, then there's maturity and decline. Well, I relabel those, right? It's not startup, growth. It's wonder, blunder, thunder, and under. But why? Because it's funny, but it makes sense too, right?
But it makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the wonder years, it's the guy, he's leaving corporate America. He wants to go do something on his own. He maybe build a great product, has an idea. He's trying to flush it out. And he gets all his money from, the 3 F's, right? Friends, family, and fools. So, yeah. And not fools because they're foolish. They just believe in him and then, we'll give it a shot. Yeah. But it's the growth phase that I call the blunder phase, right? Because there's 2 things that really kill companies in a blunder phase. And to me, that's you can grow broke, which you and I know a lot about. Yeah. The other thing that kills companies in that phase, and that's when you start having this hockey stick growth, revenue and cash start coming up, is called a sideshow venture. All right. And a sideshow venture to me is like I'm good at one thing, but as soon as you start having some success, everybody comes out of the woodwork. Like you get your friends that are like, oh, you're good at that. You should do this. Or, oh, we should partner on this project, or we should do these things, right? So everybody starts coming out of the woodwork. And the more success you have, you're like going, well, maybe I can do that. Right? Maybe I can do that. So, and I got a story about that I'll tell later, but I wanted to talk about push and pull. Mm-hmm. In the beginning of your business, you're doing everything you can to push your message out to the market. Hey, buy my shit. Look at my stuff. Hire me as a service. Whatever it is, you're pushing your message out over and over and over again. Yep. There's a point in time when the market turns just a little bit, and somebody goes, "Hey, I want your shit." Yeah. Hey, sell me your stuff. Perform this service, right? And that's the difference between push and pull. And I can only describe it as a feeling that you get as a business owner, but you'll see it also in that growth, right? Hockey stick growth, right? And I want to give you a chance to respond on that because I feel like I'm bloviating, but man, I tell you, it's a feeling, and I'll describe one in a second.
Okay. Did you? I'm fascinated there because did you make up a word, or did I not catch what you said? I thought you said
what was the word?
I thought you said blotivated. Like I don't even know what that is.
Oh, I thought I said bloviated. Bloviating. Is that not a word? Is that a word?
Bloviated. I've learned a new word today. I don't know if it's one that you made up or it's in the dictionary, but I learned it. I'm not sure what it means though, so you have to explain bloviated to me.
It means talk at length, especially in an inflated or empty way. That was me.
Oh, okay.
I was bloviating.
Okay, so
God, I know words.
So today's episode coming from the letter B for bloviated.
Words
There
with
we go.
friends, my man. Words with friends.
Yeah, oh man, if that shows up in there, I'll make a fortune off of it, you know. Hey, 800-point word bloviated.
Oh my God. Hey, what's funny is one of our number one fans, Breger, he pointed out something you said the other day. I'm gonna pick up his text. Breger says that he just sends me these texts out of the blue, right? And half the time I'm like going, what the hell are you talking about? He says, I get this. I haven't talked to this guy. Let's see. I talked to him on Saturday. He texted me yesterday, so Wednesday. I haven't talked to him in 4 or 5 days. First text is this. Personalization is a word he says weird. No context around it. Oh my God. What the fuck is this guy talking about? He's talking about you. Right? So
I almost corrected your process earlier today, but I'll let it go.
But I guess he was listening to episode, I think, what did he say? I said, oh, you must be listening to that. He says 51. He was on 51. So, and I guess you said personalization weird.
It could be the Canadian way, but I will say, like, did I say it weird, or are you guys weird? Because we're actually still connected to the Queen, and that's where English comes from. So,
but that's the Queen's English. We don't do that anymore.
Yeah, we don't do that here.
Remember, we did this tea
party. In fact, I'm kind of grumpy about that whole thing anyway. But no, but it is. I'm when I'm down in Scottsdale for the winter, I start to the way I pronounce things starts to shift a little bit, and then I get less made fun of. And then as soon as I get back here and I'm amongst a bunch of Canucks, I start saying things weird. So
to tell on me, I said, he says a lot of things weird, but I'm getting to him.
So I don't even want to try it because I don't know. I'm sure I said personalization, and you said personalization. So it's the I versus the anyway. But at least they understood what it was all about. Anyway.
Hey, you're just giving her. That's all.
I'm just giving her. And you know what's funny? Because all the Canadians listening will be like, yeah, he's just giving her. Like, yeah, of course. That's what he's doing. Makes perfect sense.
Dude, I need to get a shirt with that on it. Just giving her.
Yeah, probably around here somewhere. That we'll make one. We'll throw it on the store on mikeandblaine.com. You can buy it. Just giving her shirt.
Yeah. Just giving her the old process.
The old process. Yeah, exactly. So I will circle us back onto, what was your question about? Push versus pull. Push versus pull. Yeah.
What? Yeah. Because I was bloviating, of course.
We both have been
do the whole damn show out the window.
Yeah. There we've both been bloviating, but at least people are walking away with a new word to use. The one thing that's interesting about that where I feel the difference between push and pull with dry run, and we still have been feeling it lately, but it was bigger kind of a year ago and a little bigger before that. But we were focused on the wrong group for a while. And what was interesting is when we feel the pull, what was kind of funny is it'd be like you're kind of focusing over here and you're pushing and it's pushing and pushing and it's not really working. And then someone, like I described it as, they came in the back door. And then you're kind of like, where'd they come from? Right? Like, and then you're they much bigger business than we thought. And they came in and bought an account. And then we started to get, like, we've made a move up market. So as we started to get exposure up market, then people further up market would all of a sudden, it's like they didn't notice us at all. But once we got a little bit up to here, then they look down and go, hey, come up here. And so we've got pulled up market a few times. And it's really interesting to see where that pull's coming from. It's like, it's almost like they're grabbing by the back of the collar and pulling us over, like, you guys, we need you over here. And the people that we were pushing on, they were kind of like, yeah, I don't know. Like, we're so little and I don't know if we want to spend the money. And the guys up there, like, we'll spend the money, come up here. And that was
we'll spend more money than any of these. Yeah.
Infinitely more. Like I think we are beyond 20 to 30 times our initial entry price. Like, it's crazy,
Isn't that
right?
crazy? That's just crazy, because you know there's value in what you have.
Yeah.
It took somebody that actually needed it to say, "Oh my God, this solves a problem." It solves a problem that we're having that a spreadsheet can't.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
solves a problem.
And the
people pay
bigger the
money for
problem, the bigger that's the other thing we found. Like, you find that really big problem is like, oh, we save these guys a week of hours every week. Like, we save them 50 man hours a week, and we do this and do that. And I'm like, yeah, that's a big return. That's a really big return.
and you're
And
just
we
talking
never
about,
saw it.
yeah, but you're just talking about hours doing something. You're not talking about the results, the analysis, the interpretation of what you're looking at.
Yeah. And that's the other side of it, is that like, we had one CEO literally go to the finance team and say, you have to use dry run because I can't understand what I'm looking at with your spreadsheets. Did not care that in the end we saved them 50, 60, so whatever man hours a week. Didn't even care. All they cared about was, I cannot understand that. I can understand that. And that was really interesting, because then we're kind of like, we're looking at both sides, and like, yes, it's massive efficiency, ease, accuracy, time savings. But for us, the important part is people can understand it, which means they can make decisions, informed decisions. They're not just like, well, I looked at it, I don't understand what I'm looking at. Kind of getting on track there. But what I find is interesting is that pull. But what I would say to other entrepreneurs is, we just missed it. We didn't talk with anyone outside of what we thought was our market. And they, like, 3 or 4 times, they've come and grabbed us by the scruff of the neck and pulled us over. And then as soon as we got a little bit of exposure there, someone higher up finally saw us, and they pull us over, and they pull us over about 3 or 4 times now, where we're like, we were not, like, we should have talked with more people earlier on. We may have found this out earlier, instead of, it's almost embarrassing when they're like almost kicking down our door and saying, come on, guys, come over here. That feels like we're very fortunate they found us and they were dragging us over, but it kind of feels a little bit like embarrassing that, like, we never even, we didn't do anything. We never, they just kind of grabbed us and started pulling, which is nice, but, kind of feel like in retrospect, we should have been a little bit more.
You never think, as the small business owner, I'm new at this, just building my business.
Yeah.
That your product helps somebody well above what your problem is bigger than what you thought. You thought it was a big problem, but you thought it was a big problem for a different group.
Yeah, exactly. We thought it was maybe because we came from a little bit smaller business, and all of a sudden, it's amazing. We've heard more than once with the finance projections and everything we do. We've heard more than once people just say, it's just another 0 or 2.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, Jeremy's name came up today.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, during that 6-hour thing. Remember nice. I told you I mentioned dry run during it? They mentioned his name specifically. So kudos to him.
Oh, nice. Yeah. He makes sure people know him. And that's, he does a great job with that. And we were actually, right before this, when we were talking about another podcast that we're going to do for CPE credits and all that. Jeremy's going to spearhead that podcast with LumiQ. Actually, we're doing LumiQ. So anyway, I'm total side note. I was just doing a little plug there. But he's got so much expertise that it's he wants to share that, right?
So you're just going to be a professional podcaster.
Professional. I don't know. Does it count? We've had 4 beer bought. Oh, but we got a new sponsor coming up soon. A few weeks. Yeah.
Hey, by the way, we do have a renewal coming up on our website.
So that's costs.
I'm going to hit you with some money. I'm going to hit you up with some money on that one.
Send me the bill. Maybe after this sponsor, we'll be able to get one that'll have deeper pockets.
Like dry run.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
All right. So let me tell you about this push pull where the first time I'm like going, that's real. Right. This push versus pull. And it's not that you can just see it on a chart. It's something you feel. Mm-hmm. All right. So Finograph, right? We used to compete that way. The CEO, James Walter, went on a show called Treehouse Masters. I tell you this story?
No,
already?
no,
All right. So have you ever seen Treehouse Masters?
no, I haven't.
All right. So Treehouse Masters is a show where they build tree houses, but not like you and I built.
Okay.
Right. These are tree houses that starting price $250,000. Treehouse.
Pretty
So not a
nice
tree house,
treehouse.
it's a house in a tree.
In a tree. That has to be a big tree.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. You ought to just watch the show. It's like a 30-minute episode or something like that, maybe an hour. I don't know.
Yeah.
But these things are amazing, right? So James is neighbors with I forget the guy's name, Jeff something. I think it's Jeff. Can't remember. Anyway, he knows the guy that hosts the show.
Yeah.
And gets invited to be on it. Build a tree house, put it in a jar. And the theme that he picked was a pre-ski, which is like after ski, right? Which is APRIS. And it's like 2017, 18. I always get mixed up. I'm gonna say 18, but somewhere like that. If you want to watch it on demand, you can.
Yeah.
So James goes on there and only gets to wear gear. He can't say what company he's with, but they allow him to wear like a t-shirt or a jacket or something like that. And he says that he's the CEO of a fintech startup. Right. So realize this is like, we'll say 2018. They filmed in 17. I've been with Finagraph since 2012. We were trying to sell to everybody, right? Experian to Moody's Analytics, who eventually became a partner in that company. And I mean, PayPal, doesn't matter. Called everybody, you know how it is. I mean, you're trying to just get out there selling your small business loan processing. It's collecting data. Mm-hmm. So he goes on this show and we have a watch party, right? After it's filmed. And I don't know about you. You and I are on camera are pretty good. I think if you go to YouTube right now, we'd be okay. Right? Yeah. They're okay on camera. Yeah. This guy was the worst on camera I'd ever seen. You got to realize this is a good friend of mine. And I made hilarious fun of this guy, like absolutely just drove him into the ground with, well, at least I didn't look like that on TV. Hi, I'm James. Like he's got his family. He's like a robot. I mean, when things were bad at the office, bad news, whatever happened, I said, yeah, it's bad, but it's not as bad as James on TV. And I'd show a clip. I mean, it was that bad, right?
Yeah.
It airs in like January, February of like 18. In June, I get a call from this guy named Sid. Sid calls me up. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm at my office. I take the phone call. He says, hey, Mike, I want to talk to you about what you guys are doing with Moody's Analytics and stuff like that. I'm not thinking much about it. And he goes, my name's Sid. I'm the chief credit or chief risk officer for PayPal. I'm like going, Sid, I've been trying to get a hold of you for 4 years. You know how it is when you're trying to sell. Push into him, push. And I'm thinking, oh my God, it finally worked. All my pushing finally worked.
Yeah.
What he says next floors me. He goes, hey, I just saw this show a couple months ago called Treehouse Masters. I said, Sid, you can't tell me that. You cannot tell me that you were calling me out of the blue because you saw James Walter on Treehouse Masters and you saw Finagraph on his shirt. He goes, yeah, that's exactly what happened. He said he was the CEO of a fintech startup. And so I looked and I started researching him. And you guys, I think, can solve our problem.
Nice.
You know how much crow I ate that I had to go back to James and the whole staff and say, hey, you know who called me today? Well, PayPal. Based on Treehouse Masters, not 400 emails and phone calls that I made, but your episode of terrible acting on Treehouse Masters.
Yeah. And a t-shirt, which, oh man, I think we better start making t-shirt. I was going to put on this little Cash is King button. But
to make some t-shirts again. We've told that story before about the buttons, but here's the thing. It was right around that time that we did get more calls from Experian, and some of these folks were starting to come to us. It wasn't me begging people to look at our stuff anymore. It was them calling up saying, hey, okay, tell me more.
Mhm.
It was
Yeah.
it was the difference between push and pull. It was like on who was really more interested at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, um, it's such a different, like, and we still have a long way to go, but there's things that happen to us now that never used to happen to us. And people reaching out to us and people talking with us, and the conversations are completely different. Uh, it means that the message is resonating, and that's a really nice feeling and a very different feeling, right? And it's it's part of the process.
Nice job. I'm going to give you a standing O. So, hey,
Pasta.
pasta.
Mazda.
Hey, pasta. But think about it this way. All right. Have you ever heard this? Whereas if you go to a conference, or if you're advertising or doing things like that, if you stop doing that, people think your company died.
Yeah, it's I have heard that, and some
Yeah.
and like we haven't been to a conference now since COVID started, and you're kind of like, well, I hope people don't think we died, but we could not travel and get across a border barely, let alone um, shell out a pile of money at a conference. And it's kind of it kind of sucks too, because it's those things are so expensive. And I don't know if they really make you a lot of money, except that people see you and go, these guys are legit. They're still around, still hanging around, right?
You have to look at it as a validation of trust.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're real. I can put my hands on you. I can see your advertisements. I mean, you don't necessarily have to go to conference after conference after conference, but you can't abandon marketing. You got to kind of stay in front of people all the time. That's why,
Mhm.
think about Pepsi and Coca-Cola. They're always everywhere, and they don't
Yeah.
have to be. But they know as soon as they don't, people are going to start buying RC again, like me. Dr. Pepper, something like that. One of the Waco
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. And it's, man, it's such a tall order, and marketing is tough because it just feels like you're just kind of pissing in the wind a little bit. And yet it's because it's hard to quantify, because it's just, you need those 12 touches before someone will buy, and blah, blah, blah. And it takes a long time to move somebody through, but you just commit, and you just have to keep committing and pushing out. Like for us, a lot of it is content. We're just constantly pushing out content, making sure we're hopefully, being seen as knowledge experts in the field, that we're teaching people and offering some real value.
Yeah. The content strategy frustrates a lot of new businesses, right? Like, oh, I've been putting out blog articles every week for 6 months.
Mhm.
That's really not long enough unless you've got some other strategy around it, right? It just not. There has to be another strategy that drives people to that blog, to whatever.
Yeah.
It's just not long enough.
Yeah. It takes, it's a real long game, and you're probably not going to see a direct line. You sort of have to read between the lines a little bit and say, yeah, people are starting to see us. We're getting good traffic from that. Somehow that's driving people through the door. But I remember being at a conference. We were in San Jose a few years ago. This before COVID, and we were out for dinner with the Intuit sponsored group. So there's a bunch of startups and businesses, and a lot of them were bigger than us. And there was a couple guys there from much larger businesses than us. I don't know. One of them might have been from Intuit. I can't remember, but and we were just sitting there chatting, and that was one of the things that, like, I asked him, like, how do you attribute, like, there's got to be some magic. How do you attribute some sort of marketing item like that, some content piece, through to a sale? And his response was like, billion-dollar companies can't do that consistently. So just don't worry about it. Put out good content and trust that it's moving people through. And it was just kind of like, yeah, okay, that makes sense, right?
Yeah, and I'm gonna tell you what I mean. It's so hard to attribute any lead source to anything, and I mean, you might capture the first, but sometimes all they can do is switch from their desktop to the laptop, and you lose it.
And you're done. Yeah, exactly.
and you're done. So I mean, it's like it's very hard to attribute any traffic to a specific source. Now you can kind of get generalities, That's why you can't get wrapped up into what you're seeing, because it could be a combination of all those things that happen.
Yeah. So we just kind of think, just stick with it. Stick with it. We've got our content, a lot of our social media, a lot of posts, things going out there, and trust, like, that's where people are coming from, and then we have our outbound strategy too. Well, that's a lot easier. Yeah. We phoned them, they bought. It's easy to just like draw a line there, but that's a different strategy, right?
You just said you're going to have your third podcast, though. Well, how am I supposed to take that? I was okay being the side podcast.
Oh, no. This is like, I've got, well, this is my main podcast, because we do this every week. I've got my Turning Point podcast, which is not as frequent, but I love talking with entrepreneurs. This one is I think we might do like quarterly or something. We're going to just do a little content, but it's more Jeremy doing it because he loves talking about this stuff. He's an expert in the area of helping accountants move to advisory and all that kind of stuff. But it's not my podcast. We're just doing an episode for their massive library of podcasts. But
got it. So I'm not the sidecast.
No, we're the main one, man. We're like, we are the big kahuna here, like the big fish, right? So
we're ranking, man. We're ranking. We're on charts and stuff now.
Yeah, exactly. We can't give that up, man. And we have a website and stuff.
We got a website
and merch.
Merch.
And merch, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Can't give that up.
So now
an extra podcast. I don't know what to think about that.
So we're still. Oh, I didn't start it. We were just invited to do an episode on it. Which you're on these things all the time. You're on 6 hours before this, right? So you do this all the time. But what I realized was, with our merch and our beer purchases, it's all push.
I'll push.
At some point, hopefully it turns to pull. And we'll know that when we're walking down the street and we see the Mike and Blaine two weird heads, or the upcoming Just Giving Her t-shirt, and it's someone walking down the street.
That is still my favorite piece of. All right, so I got to get the one off. Remember the test logo I threw out there? I got to get that off the thing. But we got to come up with a few more pieces to put it out there. What are you thinking? I'm thinking Just Giving Her. I think we put that on our shirt.
We'll do that one for sure. We'll do that one, and then we'll also do buy us a beer at mikeandblaine.com. Like,
all right, I'm in. Buy us a beer at mikeandblaine.com.
It's like double up. Yeah.
Dude, I'm gonna tell you what. Here's the one thing about that shirt with the two heads, the Mike and Blaine heads. Someone always comments on it when I wear it. Always, never once. Strangers anywhere, like, on, what is that?
Okay, I better pick one up.
My head, my face.
Well, it's like right below. That's kind of that's
stop scaring kids with these shirts.
There's the pull right there.
Yeah, that's funny. All right, so you're right, though. We're still in the push, right? And this is a year with this podcast. We're still in the push.
Yeah.
And I still consider it a success, even though it's not a monetary success.
No, but like, we are, as far as, well, first of all, we're talking about the 10-year overnight success. We've done a year, basically. So we're babies. We're a complete startup. But also by episodes, people that have dove in and are doing this as kind of a profession are probably within a year, 300 episodes or whatever. Like, they do one a day kind of thing.
Yeah.
Probably 250 if they do one every weekday. But we're not there yet, right?
And what's Joe Rogan at? Like 2,800, 2,500?
I have no idea, but he's been doing it. Yeah, I'm sure he does probably daily, and I'm not sure, but a lot of them, yeah, they do daily. Some of these podcasts do multiples a day, right?
He might do 2 or 3 a week. And that's probably the top podcast. And maybe not. I don't know how many anybody else gets, but he's like considered one of the top podcasters.
Yeah. And I don't know if I think there's more than just frequency for that, but I think there's podcasts that are probably doing pretty much every weekday and things like that. And but you're doing that professionally, basically, at that point.
Yeah, but I remember him being ridiculed for doing this podcasting early on by his own friends. Like, what are you doing with this podcasting? It's something he said on his own podcast. Like, I kind of like it. Kind of like it. He just did it because he was also doing UFC. It might have been before or after Fear Factor. I mean, and doing a stand-up. I mean, he has a lot going on.
Yeah. And there's other, like, I know Bill Burr has a podcast. I don't know how often he does it. I think it's like at least once a week because it's the Monday morning, Friday podcast. So it's some weird name. I can't remember what it is exactly.
You know, one of the best names I've seen. All right. So one of my favorite comedians is Bert Kreischer. You know him?
Okay.
All right.
No, but I'll have to look him up. Yeah.
Go. Hey, his nickname is the Machine. And this guy he just hits my button, right? He's funny. Well, there's a friend of his and a friend of Joe Rogan's called, not named, Tom Segura. And
I've heard that name, but I can't picture him.
They have a podcast called Two Bears, One Cave. It's just nonsense when you listen to it. But it's two comedians that are just talking like we are.
Yeah. There's two guys, there's three guys in Edmonton that are on the radio, and it's so Canadian. It's like two guys and a goalie or something. And it's like two radio hosts and an ex-NHL goalie. They have a podcast, you know.
All right. So talking about Canadian TV, and I'm sure it's extensive, and I know it's extensive.
It really isn't.
But recently there's been one, two, maybe three really cool, no, four really cool shows I watched.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to start with, even though it's American, it's kind of Canadian, it's Schitt's Creek.
Oh yeah. No, that's well, Eugene Levy. That's really Canadian, and it feels Canadian when you watch it.
It feels Canadian. Yeah. All right, so let's set that aside because that's more Americanized. The other three, I'm gonna start with Trailer Park Boys.
Oh yeah.
See, you go like that. I'm like, oh, they're kind of funny.
Well, no, I think they're kind of funny. And those guys they do tours across Canada now, and they show up in bars with three of them. I don't know how the guy wears glasses all the time, but Bubbles.
Yeah, Bubbles. And then Letterkenny.
Oh yeah, that's a funny show. Yeah.
You know what I like about them is the banter. It's so fast. It's like
yeah,
this crazy banter. And then the last one is this new one I watched was is it Working Moms?
Oh, I'm not familiar with that one. I've never heard of that one actually.
It's Toronto or whatever. It's like, I don't know if it's Working Moms, but it's something moms. And
what platform is it on?
Hulu or Netflix, I don't know.
Okay, I'll have to take a look. Yeah.
But I think it's Working Moms, and dude, it's awesome. It's a great storyline, but it's still Canadian humor. It's still a little funny. Kind of like it. And then I'm also a follower of 22 Minutes.
Okay, this hour is 22 minutes. Yeah, that's been around forever.
It's like Second City. It's like SNL.
Yeah, and Second City was like SCTV was the TV version was filmed in our city here. It was filmed in a ITV studio where my wife used to work years ago, and that was a little bit of Canadiana here. Even though Second City was more out of Toronto, they actually filmed the show here in Edmonton. So,
oh really? Yeah, that's very cool. So, all right. So tell me this, right?
What was our topic again?
It was the 10-year overnight success.
Sorry, we've just been all over. Yep.
I'll read this damn long quote. You got to realize if you never listened to our show, we changed the format slightly in the spring, right? Was it in the spring we kind of discovered spring, early summer? Yeah. That there's all these quotes that people say, there's all these quotes that people talk about or live by. We just started breaking them down. Like, what does it mean to you? You know, what does it mean? What's the real life application? When I say this, show me what that really means. And so this quote for today was timing, perseverance, and 10 years of trying will eventually make you look like an overnight success. Damn that BJ.
Yeah. And we stuck with that topic for about half of this episode. that's probably a record for us.
No, because it's still push versus pull. Like, when do you know? We talked about, the overnight success is the struggle. The struggle is the push.
Yeah.
the pull is when, okay, we're keeping up with the market, what's happening in the market.
Yeah.
Good morning.
And how businesses seem to pop up and appear out of nowhere. And as soon as they're on your radar, you think they're new. It's just the natural thing. It's like, oh, these guys are brand new.
Yeah.
This is amazing. They've done some really cool stuff. They must have started last week and are now international success. And it's just not like that. It takes so much time, energy, and perseverance. Like, man, you just got to grind it out for so long.
You can't even launch a new initiative at Visa or American Express. Yeah, I'm thinking about or even PayPal or Tesla. You can't launch a new initiative and it be an overnight success. Can't do it.
No way. There's no way. It takes so long.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, and a lot of the so-called overnight successes, like I said, I'm going to have to look some of these up after. I want to see the Airbnbs of the world and that, like, how fast they actually gain traction. And those are the exceptions to the rule. But the problem is the public thinks that's the rule, that they think that's how it works. And it's those are like the 5 out of 100,000, you know, and the 100,000 are just the successful ones. The 10 million are the ones that failed.
Okay. Now I have seen some overnight successes.
All right.
I've seen, I'm talking about small local businesses. I've seen coffee shops or, you know, little taco shops or stuff like that pop up and packed like first week after, just instantly just packed.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, and not saying you can't do that.
No, and I guess I keep thinking of the tech world, like, and then when we built our agency, we like I said, we were profitable out of the gate, but it still felt like it took time to build. But also know, like, there was a restaurant that opened in our neighbor in Scottsdale, and they did their soft launch, and their soft launch was people lined up out the door, and it never ended. And so we just started, you know, kind of booking them, and every couple of weeks, like ahead of time, we would leave the restaurant and you kind of book for a couple of weeks out on Open Table, just so, like, we're not going to get in otherwise. So yeah, that was an overnight success. What was interesting was the guys that were built that business had done it before. And so they went through the grind. And I think in a way, it's like they probably took a long time to build the first restaurant and figured out how to do it, right?
Here's what I can tell you. I mean, again, 14 companies. The only thing my experience has done is shortcut mistakes.
Yeah.
Did that before, that got hurt. Don't do that. Right. So that's what it does. You still have to execute. You still have to have that product market fit.
Yeah.
And I think in Scottsdale, where you live, you have to deliver the goods, right? Which is, especially if you're in a restaurant bar, there are so many.
Yeah. There's no room for, there's no room for error. Yeah. It's so competitive. You see restaurants come and go, and they see a lot of them stick around for a long time. And you have to be good. You just have to be good. But yeah, that's an industry that I think you have an opportunity to be an overnight success. But you know, something we never touched on, and we won't be able to get to it today, but an industry like that, you don't have any margin for error. So with some industries, it's like, you're going to be a 10-year overnight success, but you can build and build and build. With a restaurant, I'm not sure that's going to happen. If you're not kind of an overnight success, you might not be there in 2 weeks. Because if your reputation is bad at the start, how do you turn that around? All your reviews online are bad. It's like, that's how the restaurant, those TV shows where the restaurant rescues or whatever they are.
Do stress tests and those type of things. All
that kind of stuff. I think it's really hard to rescue something, because once you have that reputation and something so public and like, yeah, I think it's like an overnight failure as well, right?
Well, I think that's why, John Taffer does the stress test, makes it look terrible, right? Everybody knows, but he tells everybody when you're coming in the door, hey, we're filming a show. This is a stress test. If it's bad, sorry, and then I'm sure they make it up to them somehow. But then he remodels the place, rebrands, remodels, does everything differently, and introduces the same place, same people differently. Yeah. I think that's how you avoid the overnight, success failure.
Maybe that's our next thing when we become the 10-year overnight success here. We'll have a TV series, or maybe YouTube, Nobody told me. And we'll go around and we'll go into businesses and say, here's all the stuff we did that was wrong that you guys can learn from. And, we'll flip them around.
Ooh, see, I like the way you're thinking. Like we're thinking.
Opportunity.
Nobody told me TV show.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Then we help
beer.
Then we help them fix it. Nobody told me that it was going to be this hard. Nobody told me it was.
Yeah, that's the way we'll do it. We'll go in. We won't actually fix anything. Like we'll just go in. We'll bring a 6-pack of beer, sit down with the owner, and we'll just have a talk. Nobody told me.
We don't have to fix anything.
No. Have a conversation.
We'll fix it a little bit. Come on, we'll get them dry runs.
Well, they'll by the time they walk out, they'll have her solved. They'll have just like we do here. Every week we solve one of the world's problems. Check mark. And today it was how to be a 10-year overnight success.
There you go. Hey, if you haven't already, go to mikeandblaine.com, buy some beer, buy our merch. Hey, watch this thing on YouTube every once in a while, because I think I can't tell yet who's better looking, Blaine or I. Maybe you can tell me. So go on.
Well, somehow I'm younger with less hair and more gray. So that's a sad state of affairs.
But I was a HIMS model.
Yeah, you have a history of being a model. Did you dance?
A hair model.
A hair model, yeah.
Yeah,
right.
George Costanza was the hand model. I'm a hair model.
Yeah. I have not modeled anything. Nobody will ever want me to. So
no, that's funny. But anyway, you learned something? Final thought?
You cannot be a model and be a 10-year overnight success, probably, but I know it was a good conversation today. It's just a good reminder how important it is to persevere, to find those shortcuts, and but it's still an incredibly long journey for many businesses.
That's true. No business you see is really an overnight success. There's a lot of work. There's a lot of effort. There's a lot of planning. There's a lot of changes that happen in the process. So be appreciative of folks that put their time and money and effort on the line, because I'm appreciative of all of you that are taking that chance today.
Yeah, absolutely. We always cheer on business owners, small business owners, especially, that are, taking that chance, taking the leap.
Yeah. Hey, another good one, buddy. Appreciate it.
Another one in the tank. Number 54 next week.